Dear students, this is my fourth video in the series Misconceptions in Physical Chemistry. In my previous three videos, I had discussed misconceptions found in the field of buffer solutions, including a very important limitation of Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. Well, today in this video, I want to discuss a very important misconception found regarding the explanation for lowering in vapor pressure when a non-volatile solute is dissolved in a solvent. But before I discuss that misconception, it is advisable to go through briefly the vapor pressure itself, I mean vapor pressure of a liquid, and the factors affecting vapor pressure. So vapor pressure of a liquid is defined as the pressure exerted by the vapors of a liquid when they are in dynamic equilibrium with the liquid at a constant temperature. You must have seen a very simple experiment by which vapor pressure of a liquid is measured. As shown here in this diagram, we take a evacuated chamber, put some liquid whose vapor pressure is to be measured in it, and this chamber is connected to a mercury manometer or any other device by which we can measure the pressure. So at constant temperature, when we take liquid in this chamber, there are two processes going on: vaporization of the liquid and condensation of the vapors into the liquid. When there is equilibrium, when these two rates become equal to one another, we say there is equilibrium between liquid and its vapor at constant temperature. Then this vapor exerts pressure, and that is reflected, measured by this mercury manometer. Here you can find this is the difference in the level H, and that gives, from that we can calculate how much is the vapor pressure of this vapor. So this is all about definition of vapor pressure and its measurement. Keep this figure in mind because we shall be using it again later on when we discuss lowering in vapor pressure. But now I would like to discuss the factors affecting vapor pressure of a liquid. You must be knowing there are two important factors. The first one is nature of the liquid. And according to that, we know that more volatile a liquid is, more is its vapor pressure. For example, if you consider ethyl alcohol at 25 degrees Celsius, its vapor pressure is about 60 torr or 60 millimeter of mercury. In comparison to that, if we consider water liquid at the same temperature, then vapor pressure is found to be around 20 millimeter of mercury. It means ethyl alcohol is more volatile as compared to water, and more volatile a liquid is, its boiling point is lower. The normal boiling point is the temperature at which vapor pressure of a liquid becomes equal to 1 atmospheric pressure, that is 760 millimeter of mercury. Normal boiling point of ethyl alcohol is 78.5 degrees Celsius, while that of water we know it is 100 degrees Celsius. So nature of liquid is one important factor affecting vapor pressure of the liquid. The Second factor is temperature. According to this factor, so long temperature of a liquid is constant, its vapor pressure remains constant. But if temperature increases, then vapor pressure of the liquid increases and vice versa. Then, in order to find out how much there is a change in the vapor pressure of a liquid with the rise of temperature, we make use of an equation that is known as Clapeyron equation. Clapeyron equation. According to that equation, we have log P2 by P1 is equal to delta HV over 2.303 R into 1 upon P1 minus 1 upon P2. Well, in this equation, delta HV is the enthalpy of vaporization liquid. And this is always a positive quantity because vaporization is an endothermic process. Therefore, it is quite clear from this equation that as temperature increases, vapor pressure increases. But at the same time, we should have a word of caution here that this temperature difference or temperature range T2 to T1, but T2 is a higher temperature, T1 is a lower temperature. Vapor pressure at higher temperature is P2, at lower temperature it is T1. So I was talking about T2 to T1, this temperature range must be small. Then only we can get the correct result. Provided we know the vapor pressure at one temperature, we can find out vapor pressure at another temperature. But temperature difference shouldn't be very large because delta HV itself is temperature dependent. While using this equation, we should also remember that if delta HV is in terms of calories per mole, then R will be equal to 2 calories Kelvin inverse mole inverse. If delta HV is in terms of joules per mole, then R will be substituted 8.314 joule Kelvin inverse. P1 and P2 are in the same unit. P1 and T2 are of course in Kelvin. So by substitution, we can find out the new vapor pressure provided we have vapor pressure of the liquid at temperature. So this is all about the two factors which affect vapor pressure of the liquid. Now I come to a very important point, and that is, remember, vapor pressure of a liquid at a constant temperature does not depend on, very important point, vapor pressure of a liquid at constant temperature does not depend on the first point is surface area of the liquid. Surface area of the liquid. Second is the quantity of the liquid. Let me first write down this one. External pressure, external pressure applied on the liquid. And third one is quantity of the liquid, quantity of. It's very important, I repeat, vapor pressure of a liquid at a constant temperature does not depend on. This is very, very important because we are going to deal with it later on. Surface area of the liquid. Second is external pressure applied on the liquid. Whatsoever pressure you can apply on the liquid, if temperature is constant, vapor pressure will remain constant. And it doesn't matter how much amount of the liquid you have taken for measuring its vapor pressure. So when temperature is constant, vapor pressure is constant. It doesn't depend upon the quantity of the liquid. All right, keep in mind these three important points, and out of them, the first one is very, very important. Now I come to the main part of today's video. That is about lowering in lowering in vapor pressure. It means if we have a solvent and to that we add a little amount of a non-volatile solute so as to form a dilute solution. And we further suppose at constant temperature T, if vapor pressure of solvent is P and vapor pressure of solution is Ps, then this is an experimental fact that P is more than Ps. This difference P minus Ps, which we call delta P, is called lowering in vapor pressure. And this is a colligative property. Based upon that, Raoul gave an important law that is known as Raoult's law of relative lowering in vapor pressure. Of course, my intention is not to discuss Raoult's law of relative lowering in vapor pressure and its applications. My intention is to discuss why there is. This is the important point I want to discuss here. That is, why there is lowering in vapor pressure. Traditionally or conventionally, in majority of textbooks you will find, even in many guidebooks you will find this explanation. Traditional explanation is that solute particles in the surface of the liquid become obstacles for solvent molecules to escape into the vapor phase. Thus, solute particles or molecules, whatever form they have, the solute particles reduce the surface area of the solvent and hence vapor pressure decreases. This is the explanation you will usually find in majority of textbooks, but this explanation is wrong, totally wrong. It is ridiculous also. Now the question arises, why it is wrong? Why I'm saying it is wrong? What is wrong? This explanation that solid particles provide obstacles and they reduce the surface area of the liquid and therefore vapor pressure decreases. So let us now discuss why this explanation is wrong. In order to understand it, let us consider an experiment. What that experiment is, suppose we take a evacuated chamber, and in that I take water as solvent, or you can take any other solvent. Presently, let me talk about water. So this is water liquid. Temperature, say it is 25 degrees Celsius or any other, but that must be constant temperature. And if you measure vapor pressure, then it comes out to be 20 millimeter of mercury. Vapors will be formed here. This is water. Manometer is of course attached to it. I'm not showing that manometer. Let us just try to understand it. That if we take in that experiment water at 25 degrees Celsius and measure the vapor pressure, it comes out to be 20 millimeter of mercury. Now repeat this experiment at the same temperature. Take water again in that evacuated chamber and now put some wooden corks. You know, wooden corks will not be dissolved into water. Temperature is 25 degrees Celsius as usual. We have put some wooden corks. Wooden corks will be floating on the surface of water. And measure again vapor pressure. It is an experimental fact that the value comes out to be, again same, that is 20 millimeter of. Look here again. In the first experiment, surface of water liquid is free. Free in the sense there are no foreign particles in the surface of this liquid. Here, repeating the same experiment, I have put some wooden corks so as to reduce. These will reduce surface area of water. We are decreasing the surface area. We are providing obstacles to the water molecules to go into the vapor phase. Even then, vapor pressure comes out to be same, 20 millimeter of mercury. Is it not contradictory to the previous explanation? The previous explanation or the traditional explanation says the surface area is decreasing and therefore vapor pressure is decreasing, but we are not finding any decrease in the vapor pressure. In fact, that explanation is so much contradictory. Look here, how it is contradictory. On the one hand, we say that vapor pressure vapor pressure does not depend on surface area. This is experimental fact. On the other hand, that explanation says that surface area decreases and that's why vapor pressure is decreasing. How funny. That's why I say that this explanation is absolutely wrong. Well, now the next question is then what is the scientific correct explanation? This correct explanation is provided by thermodynamics. In order to understand that explanation, consider, suppose this is entropy axis. Temperature is constant, and I assume that this is the entropy level of solvent because this is the most orderly state here, therefore its entropy is least. And this is, suppose, that entropy level of solution, that's our dilute solution. And this is the entropy level of the vapors. Vapors are always vapors of solvent in case of non-volatile solute. So these are the three entropy levels. Now, how much is the entropy change when solvent undergoes vaporization? This is, I can say, delta S vaporization for solvent. And regarding solution, this is the entropy change for the vaporization of solvent from the solution into the vapor state. So I would say that this represents entropy change or entropy of vaporization for solution. From the diagram, it is quite clear that delta SV for solvent, V stands for vaporization. Delta SV for solvent is more than delta SV for solvent. Now let us consider. Now consider Gibbs equation. According to that, we know delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. At constant temperature, therefore, if we consider the vaporization process, I can write delta G vaporization is equal to delta H vaporization minus T delta S vaporization. Now, delta HV, the enthalpy of vaporization is almost same for solvent and a dilute solution. Solvent and dilute solution prepared by dissolving a non-volatile solute in that solvent. So this quantity is same for both the types of liquid. And we have seen that delta SV for solvent is more than delta SV for solution. T is of course constant. So what does it mean? It means delta G vaporization for solvent is more negative because delta SV for solvent is more. This is same for both the liquids. So if we compare the two, we will come across this fact: the delta Gv for solvent is more negative than delta Gv for dilute solution. And more negative delta G is more spontaneous the process. It means vaporization of solvent more spontaneous than vaporization of solvent from dilute solution. And this is the thermodynamic explanation that why vapor pressure of solvent, thus vapor pressure of solvent becomes more than vapor pressure of dilute solution. But mind it, I repeat, dilute solution means dissolution of a non-volatile solute in a solvent. I'm not talking about a volatile solute dissolved into a volatile solvent. That's a different story. So, this is the explanation for dissolution of a non-volatile solute in a solvent and lowering in vapor pressure. This thermodynamic approach for explaining this lowering in vapor pressure, this approach can be further extended for explaining the other colligative properties also. This approach is extended for explaining other colligative properties. Also, other colligative properties means elevation of boiling point, depression in freezing point. Both these can be explained with this type of approach. It is my experience that students feel difficulty in explaining or understanding the depression in freezing point on the basis of lowering in vapor pressure. This thermodynamic approach is much better. It clearly explains why there is depression in freezing point when a non-volatile solute is dissolved in a solvent. Let me explain that one also. That is lowering or depression in freezing point. Again, suppose this is the entropy axis as usual, and at a constant temperature, at some temperature, I suppose that this is the entropy level of the solid. Then this is the entropy level of the solvent, liquid. This is solid solvent. And somewhere here is the entropy level of solution, that is dilute solution prepared by dissolving in non-volatile solute in a solvent. So let us see how much is the delta S fusion. When solution undergoes freezing, this is delta S fusion for solution. And when solvent undergoes freezing, this is delta S fusion for solvent. We have two delta SF. And from this it is quite clear that delta S fusion for solution is more than delta S fusion for pure solvent. Okay. And now we know that freezing point is the temperature. Freezing point is the temperature at which solid solvent is in equilibrium with solvent liquid. Remember, this is also an important point. It is not the solidification of solution. It is the solidification of the solvent that takes place, and there is an equilibrium between solid solvent and the solvent liquid. Now, at freezing point, when there is an equilibrium, that means at freezing point, delta G is equal to 0. And we further know delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. Delta H is same. Delta HF, you can say, is same for both. Both means solvent and solution. And delta G is equal to 0. Therefore, we can say 0 is equal to delta H fusion minus T delta S fusion. For T, that becomes the freezing point, that is equal to delta H fusion over delta S fusion. Since this is same and this one is more for the solution, that is the dilute solution. Therefore, freezing point of solution is less than freezing point of the. So without going into the aspect of vapor pressure, with the help of thermodynamics, we can very conveniently explain why there is depression in freezing point when a non-volatile solute is dissolved. Similarly, we can explain elevation of boiling point also. Well, in this video, my intention was more or less was to explain the lowering in vapor pressure, for which most of the textbooks provide erroneous explanation. I hope this will be much useful to you. That's all about this video. My next video would be about some misconceptions in inorganic chemistry. Although there are many more misconceptions in physical also, but now I would like to discuss some misconceptions in inorganic chemistry in my next video. Thank you. Thank you very much.